In today's lesson, we're going to talk through how to address any kind of client anxiety that you have. So close your eyes, picture this. You pull up to the shoot, the location is beautiful, the weather is perfect, and you are excited. And you look out your window and you see your client right next to you, and all you see on their faces is a lack of energy and fear and anxiety and nervousness. What do you do in that situation? Well, from what I know, you can open your eyes now. From what I know, you can actually look at this from a couple of different ways. First of all, know that you never have 100% control over what your clients have gone through until they get to you that time. But you can prepare them for what to expect during the shoot. You should have walked them through how it's going to go, where we're going to meet, what we'll accomplish during the day, and even the timeline that you're going to have to get them their photographs afterwards. Everything else, you don't know what's happened. They could have been into a fight with their significant other. They could have had their car break down yesterday, and all of a sudden there's all of this anxiety over financials. We have no control over that, but what we do have control over is the anxiety and the anxiousness that actually ruins photos. I have found two ways that I like to start a photo shoot. One of these two ways typically works for any of my clients. Try them and then see what works for you. It might not. That's the thing with posing. You have to be genuine to you as a photographer in order for it to come across that way for your clients. So the first thing that I do, if somebody shows up and they are super anxious and they're not excited and they almost feel, like I've said before, closed off, at that point, I want them to go in and to hear everything that I plan to do during the shoot. I want them to see where we're going to be going. I want them to know, hey, we're going to start over in this area. We're going to finish over in this area. We'll change you at this point so that they have a sense for what's happening. And then I'm going to ask them questions that actually get them out of their heads and into the moment. So what are those questions? So some of the things that I've said before, for in particular engaged couples, I will always ask the guy how he proposed. Why is it key to ask the guy though? Well, typically a female is way more excited about pictures than the male is. Or ask whoever's the most nervous about it is a better way to say that. If you get them talking about the best moment of their lives, they're actually going through the exact emotions that they're going to go through on an engagement session. Think about it. Initially, when you're about to propose, you're super nervous. You're anxious. You don't know how it's going to go. You get to that moment and it's a buildup, and it builds up and up and up until the moment when you drop to a knee and you propose and they say yes. And then there's a sense of calm and excitement and joy that goes along with it. I'm taking them through that particular experience before they experience it with the photographs. It makes a huge difference for most people. If it comes down to a senior and they show up and they're super anxious, I do my research ahead of time, in particular on a contact form, and find out what they like. What are they most interested in? What are their hobbies? And after we've gone through what the shoot looks like, I'm going to walk them through and I'm going to actually ask them some questions about what they like to do. And typically, I'm going to start further away from where we are so that we're walking, we're talking, and it's that genuine interaction. Okay? The second way that you can do this is you can force your client into an uncomfortable position. Nothing wrong with that. I have had it work out numerous times where I'm going to get somebody as close to their significant other or loved one as possible right from the get-go. And that way, they don't even have time to think about how nervous they are. And I'm doing the same thing that I've talked about where we're keeping them in that static pose for longer than they actually expect. Now, here's one thing that I go through and I do for every single client that you can choose to do, you can choose not to do. And I know that there are two different frames of thought with this. I like to show the back of the camera. In particular, on a pose or on an actual photograph that I think speaks to who the client is. Whether it be, a senior twirling, or that wrinkle of the nose laughter that comes from, a snuggle. I want them to see what I see because they're not going to do that very often, right? They don't know what to expect. So going through and working on those two different aspects. For the first one, talking through where the shoot's going to start, where the shoot's going to end, and then asking them questions or forcing them into those static poses and keeping them there longer than what you expect is going to build a sense of ease, a sense of calm with most people. I've had this backfire before. I've had it where I've read somebody wrong and they need the time to actually walk and talk before they get in front of the camera. That's okay. All I do is backtrack. Like, I'll pull myself back and rein myself in to do what's best for the client. And in the end, that's what we want. We want what's best for our client and what's best for the photograph. So we've talked a little bit about anxiety. What about building trust throughout the session? There are a bunch of different ways that I'm going to walk you through that you can actually build trust with your clients. The first one is through continuous praise and encouragement. If you're giving them reassurance that they're doing the right thing, how else are they going to know? How would I know that I'm actually doing the right thing, that I'm creating the art that my photographer wants, if I'm not saying to them, you look beautiful, you look great, you look amazing? Take a look at this clip and tell me that this couple doesn't glow. The second thing you can do is use positivity and positive words to change their behavior instead of negative. For example, if I see a hand out of place and I say, no, that looks weird, I've put something negative associated with what my client is doing. They're immediately going to say, oh my God, I look weird, I look weird, I look weird. Weird has a negative connotation with it. Instead, I might say, Sarah, grab onto Jacob's shirt and pull him towards you. Instead of saying that she was doing something wrong, I'm just giving her an instruction it's neither negative or positive. I'm just changing the way that the photograph looks. A neutral statement is going to create a better photograph. Conversation between shots is going to create a different flow throughout your entire session. Think about yourself as being on a first date with someone. If we think through every single instructional material that you get for dating, it talks about asking somebody else questions. Think about your clients as a first date. Learn as much as you can about them. What's their job? What do they do? What do they enjoy? What hobbies do they have? Why did they pick the kind of dog that they have? Keep it relatively neutral, but also you want to know a little bit about their life. What if I don't ask them the question like, what is your favorite thing to do together? What if they say salsa dancing and I'm not going to incorporate salsa dancing at all into my posing? Well, shoot, I now have hundreds of photographs that I can snap while they're doing something that I know nothing about, but that they love to do together. That makes a big difference. Now, let me state this. If you are introverted, this is going to take you some practice. You need to start to ask questions and to not give no response. Guys, I know a bunch of introverted photographers. They do well. They do great. But sometimes they lack that connection. And it's not because there's anything wrong with being introverted. It's because there's not that woo of being an extrovert. That's okay. Again, practice makes perfect when it comes to this. Another thing that you can do to alleviate this is have them fill out on your contact form some of their hobbies. What's the favorite moment that they've had together that wasn't the proposal? Those are the kinds of things that give you that, not to say ammunition, but kind of ammunition towards those conversations throughout the time that you're with them. Yet another way to get rid of nerves is if you can mimic your client's tone of voice, their level of speaking, and their body language. We are the most comfortable with people who look like us. And I don't mean that from a race, gender, anything like that position. What I mean by that is if your client walks up and their hands are in their pockets, when you put your hands in your pockets, subconsciously they relate to you. Subconsciously, if they are bending towards you and you bend towards them, They are liking you more as a person. And when you like somebody, you trust them more. I myself am an open book. I'm loud, I'm excitable. Part of the joy of my job is how thrilled I get when I look at a photograph and it's just right. If I look at a picture and it's like the picture, my clients know. They know it's the picture. Trust me. It is kind of a mess, but in the best way. My personality, though, can be a little bit overwhelming for somebody who's shy, who's a little more reserved. And so during that time period when I'm having those conversations with them, I am also reading if they are loud, if they are excitable, or if they're a person who likes calm, who wants peaceful interactions. I can lower my voice. I can be that calming presence because that's what's going to be best for my client. You can do it too. Again, it just takes practice. One of the things that I've always found that works is by showing the back of the camera. And we talked about this before, but I find that when I'm confident in an image and I'm willing to show my client what it looks like, they tend to go in and they tend to enjoy that image too. And if they don't, that's even better because I'm giving them the opportunity to tell me, I don't like the way that this looks. And I will ask them to be as honest with me as they possibly can. Because in the end, all they have at the end of this are the photographs. And I want them to love it. So showing the back of the camera for me is not just simply, look how gorgeous you look. It's an opportunity for them to communicate more to me what they're loving about it and what they're not so keen on. And you know what? If they don't love it, that gives me a better sense for what to do throughout the actual session. All of these things can really help you solidify trust with your clients, but I want to be upfront and honest with you. I've tried all of these with certain clients before and walked away disappointed and upset because I just couldn't make that connection. And that's okay. It's okay if you don't connect with every client, but what matters is that you try, okay? If you try and you help them build that trust in you, you're going to find that their photographs are more authentically them than what they probably could get with somebody else. And that's the key. Build that trust, ease the anxiety, and get the best photos you can.